Princess Sarathi walked slowly through the gleaming corridors of the Valthari Palace, her long robes brushing the polished floor. Light from the floating crystal lanterns shimmered across the walls, casting patterns that seemed to move like water. She was expected to meet the human delegation today, yet her mind was restless. The Valthari were known for their elegance, their perfection, their control over every aspect of life, but something in her chest told her that today, control would not be enough. The doors of the main hall opened with a soft hum, revealing humans walking in with a mixture of confidence and cautious curiosity. They were taller than most Valthari, with broad shoulders and quick movements. Their faces were expressive, full of emotion, which to Valthari eyes could sometimes seem reckless. Sarathi's gaze fell on the man at the front of the group, and she froze without meaning to. His brown eyes were familiar. He looked the same, yet older, steadier. A sudden warmth rushed through her. Captain Elias Mercer. She remembered him clearly, even though it had been many years. She had been no taller than a small child, drifting in space inside a damaged escape pod. Fear had gripped her tiny body, coldness threatening to overwhelm her as she floated alone. Then a human ship had appeared, guided not by military orders but by intuition and courage. Elias had reached her, his voice calm, his hands steady, promising safety when she could barely understand words. She had survived because of him, and now years later he stood in the same room, an adult, representing a species her people had once doubted. Saratha bowed slightly to the other Valthari officials, reminding herself to keep composure. She could not let anyone see the recognition. Not now. Diplomacy was fragile, and any personal sentiment could be interpreted as weakness. The meeting began with the usual formalities: Valthari precision, measured gestures, and human curiosity. Sarath watched Elias closely. He spoke calmly, clearly explaining humanity's intentions, showing patience and intelligence. She could see why her people feared them. Their determination and adaptability were unmatched, and yet there was a kindness in Elias that resonated deeply with her. As the talks continued, tension began to rise. The Valthari Council suspected humans might be seeking some technological advantage, while the humans were wary of the Valthari's distant, controlled approach. Sarathi noticed both sides circling each other carefully, testing, waiting for a misstep. If the meeting failed, it could mean disaster for both worlds. And she knew deep down that no council debate would solve what needed solving: trust. After hours of negotiations, the council took a short break. Saratha walked alone into the crystal gardens, where bioluminescent plants cast a soft glow over winding paths. She remembered playing among similar plants as a child, though the gardens then had been smaller, contained, fragile. Now they were vast and dazzling, yet strangely empty. A soft hum of movement made her turn, and she saw him. Elias had slipped away from the human group, quietly walking among the glowing plants, eyes scanning, cautious but calm. Neither spoke at first. Words were not necessary yet. Recognition alone spoke volumes. "I didn't expect you," Sarathi said finally, her voice low, almost trembling. Elias's lips curved in a gentle smile. "Nor I you," he replied. "I remembered your eyes. I hoped you would be here." They began walking together along the winding paths, sharing memories of a long-ago rescue, of a frightened child, and a man who had chosen compassion over protocol. Saratha felt warmth and clarity she hadn't known she would feel again. The years of duty, of being the perfect princess, seemed to melt away in the presence of someone who had seen her simply as a child in need. But the real world intruded. The Valthari Council and human delegation could not know of this personal connection. Yet neither could ignore the shared concern that had brought them together. The star, Solon 4, destabilizing in a remote sector. Its energy fluctuations threatened colonies of both species, but neither had the expertise alone to solve it. Only together could the problem be addressed, combining human adaptability with Valthari quantum technology. Sarathi leaned close, speaking in a whisper. "We cannot let our people fail. If the council discovers us speaking in secret, it could ruin everything." "But the star, it won't wait for politics," Elias nodded. "We'll find a way. We always do." For hours they discussed possibilities. Sarathi shared her knowledge of the Valthari energy grids, while Elias explained human field stabilization techniques. They sketched, calculated and imagined solutions using a combination of instinct and intellect. Both laughed quietly when ideas seemed impossible. Both focused when they saw a glimmer of hope. For the first time, Sarathi felt the thrill of partnership, of minds working together across species, across worlds. But the council did not remain unaware for long. One of the younger Valthari officials noticed her absence from the ceremonial halls. Surveillance crystals recorded fragments of her conversation with the human captain. When the council reconvened, a whisper of disapproval ran through the chamber. Questions were raised, voices sharp with suspicion. Sarathi felt the chill of authority closing in. "Princess Sarath," the elder Valthari counselor said, voice carefully controlled, "it has come to our attention that you engaged in unsanctioned communication with the human delegation." Her stomach sank. She had anticipated risk, but the reality was worse than she imagined. Elias's calm presence did not falter. He stood beside her in silence, his eyes meeting hers, a silent promise that whatever came next, they would face it together. The council debated, the tension thickening. Sarath could feel the disappointment, the fear, the rigid structure of her people tightening around her. Finally, the verdict came. She was stripped of much of her diplomatic authority. Elias, too, was detained for questioning and would soon be sent back to human space under strict supervision. Sarathi returned to her chambers, her steps echoing in the empty halls. She had failed in the eyes of her people to maintain control. Yet in her heart she knew she had not failed the one who had saved her life, nor the millions who might suffer if the star destabilized. She looked at a small pendant she had carried since childhood, the token Elias had given her to remind her of hope. She held it tightly, feeling the connection across years and light years. He had trusted her once as a child. Now she would trust herself, and she would not let him be taken away without a plan. The night was quiet, but Saratha's mind was alive. Ideas swirled, plans formed, and a determination burned stronger than fear or protocol. If the council would not act, she would. If rules bound her, she would find a way beyond them. For the first time in her life, she felt the thrill of true agency, and she realized that the courage of a single human had once saved her. Perhaps the courage of one Valthari princess could save many in return. And as she stared at the glowing gardens below, she whispered to herself, "He saved me once, and now I must save him." The stars outside twinkled silently, unaware of the dramas unfolding below. Yet in those quiet lights, Sarathi felt something she had not felt for years: hope. Princess Sarath could not sleep. Her chamber was silent, yet her mind was alive with thoughts of Elias and the dying star. She had spent her life following rules, pleasing her council, maintaining perfection. But now rules felt meaningless. Lives were at stake, both human and Valthari, and time was running out. She knew that if she did nothing, the consequences would be catastrophic. At first light, she rose and went to the private archives, where ancient knowledge of Valthari energy systems was stored. She worked quietly, her hands tracing maps and schematics, searching for a solution that combined Valthari precision with human flexibility. Hours passed, but she felt herself growing closer to understanding. Then she remembered Elias. He had taught her to trust intuition, to see connections others overlooked. She smiled softly. Perhaps she needed him after all. Using an old frequency hidden in her childhood pendant, she sent a coded message to Elias. The pendant vibrated with a soft glow, carrying a message only he could understand. "Meet me at the lower gardens. Trust me." Elias, though confined to his ship, recognized the signal immediately. He knew her well enough to understand the urgency. With careful planning, he slipped past human guards and Valthari patrols, moving silently through the shadows of the palace gardens. When they met, neither spoke at first. They simply looked at each other, the bond from years ago reappearing instantly, unbroken by distance or time. "We don't have much time," Sarath said finally, her voice steady. "The star is destabilizing. If it collapses, colonies will be destroyed." Elias nodded. "Then we work together, as we always did." They spent the day moving through the palace and the surrounding grounds, gathering instruments and components from both Valthari and human technology. Sarathi's knowledge of the energy grids combined with Elias's understanding of adaptive field stabilization allowed them to design a plan that neither species could have accomplished alone. They built a small resonance engine, designed to synchronize with the star's fluctuating energy. It required cooperation, focus, and trust, the very things their peoples lacked but they now shared. At first, the engine seemed impossible to operate. The star flared unpredictably, sending waves of unstable energy that could disrupt the delicate systems. But Sarathi remained calm, guiding the energy with her species' precise mental control, while Elias adjusted the fields with his quick, flexible thinking. They moved as a team, their actions perfectly coordinated despite years apart. Hours passed, the star's energy surging and ebbing. Their hands brushed as they worked, sending a small jolt of warmth through both of them. Sarathi remembered the small child she once was, saved by a human's courage. Now she was the adult guiding that human, relying on his courage in return. They smiled at each other, silently acknowledging that trust could overcome fear, and ingenuity could overcome impossibility. Then, as the sun set across distant planets, the resonance engine activated fully. A wave of calm energy spread outward, synchronizing the star's unstable core. Sarathi felt her species' psychic strain ease, and Elias steadied her as the final adjustments were made. Together, they watched the star's glow stabilize, brighter and steadier than before. A quiet cheer escaped both of them. The impossible had been accomplished. The star was saved. Colonies on both sides of the galaxy would survive. Humanity and Valthari alike would have proof that cooperation could achieve what isolation could not. When the Council and human delegation arrived the next day, they saw the stabilized star through crystal observation windows. Faces that had been suspicious now glowed with wonder and relief. Questions about distrust faded, replaced by admiration for what had been achieved. Sarathi and Elias stood side by side, no longer merely princess and human captain, but partners who had shown that courage, trust, and ingenuity could change the course of worlds. The council elders approached Sarathi, their faces softened. "Princess," one said, "your actions, they have saved more than lives. You have shown us a way forward." Elias turned to her, eyes bright. "We did it together," he said. Sarathi shook her head with a small laugh. "You guided me once long ago. Now I guided you. Together we guided them all." The humans and Valthari celebrated quietly, not with loud fanfare, but with shared relief and respect. For the first time, both species recognized the value of each other. Humanity's adaptability and compassion, Valthari's precision and insight. Sarathi looked at Elias and realized that the fear and shivering she had felt as a child had been replaced by confidence and warmth. The stars above twinkled silently, watching over the galaxy. Sarathi no longer shivered. She had faced the impossible, trusted the human who once saved her, and together they had changed the future. The galaxy was wide, full of challenges, but for the first time she felt ready for them. And as she walked with Elias through the glowing gardens, she whispered quietly, "We did it. Together," Elias smiled, "always together." The light of the stabilized star bathed them both, a symbol of hope, courage, and the extraordinary power of trust. And in that light, Princess Sarath and Captain Elias Mercer knew that whatever challenges awaited, humanity and the Valthari could face them side by side, and that the smallest act of courage, even years ago, could echo across the stars to save entire worlds.